Hello and welcome to the Team VVV podcast for all your weekly racing game rambles. I'm Martin and joining me as ever is Kevin.
Hi guys.
Alan.
Hello viewers.
And Ed.
Hi everyone.
So as always, if you enjoyed the podcast, do like and subscribe. It really helps support what we do. This week we are giving away a PlayStation 4 code for Super Toy Cars. So do check out the website for more details on that. Right, so last time, I think it's fair to say we were a bit worried that we wouldn't have much to talk about, as let's face it, next to nothing was happening in the racing game industry. Not so much this week, because after months of silence from Codemasters, we had the long-awaited announcement of DiRT 4, which I don't think any of us quite really saw coming, really, so soon after DiRT Rally. I think it's fair to say, judging from the announcement so far, that they're targeting a more mass audience than DiRT Rally. You've got things like Land Rush, Rallycross, and also a little bit of traditional rallying thrown in as well. But I think really the most interesting reveal here is the procedural track generator they've got going there. What were your initial impressions of the announcement then, Alan?
I think it was initially a surprise. I think when I first saw DiRT 4, I thought DiRT 4, DiRT Rally 2, 4. Oh, DiRT Rally, DiRT 3. This is DiRT 4 to DiRT 3. Right? Okay, excellent. And then I just remembered all the good old times I've had playing DiRT 2 and DiRT 3, and thought, wow, it's great. Let's look at some of the stuff they've got there. I haven't seen what the randomly generated stages are like and everything else yet. I haven't seen all that stuff, and I look forward to seeing how well that works out and how dynamic it is in reality. But yeah, first impressions all sound really good. I just hope there's enough content in the locations for any given discipline, because what I'm saying is like you say, has many aspects but is master of none. Will there be enough in any given genre within it? And I guess, one would expect them to have a lot of World Rallycross circuits in there, so that should be a full game in its own right. But either way,
like DiRT Rally where you had all the 3 locations or whatever it was.
No, exactly. And I think handling-wise as well, it's supposed to have a full sim handling system in there as well. So it'd be interesting to see how they've broken that down and how they've broken it down in terms of leaderboards and stuff like that, depending on the handling model you selected. But the Australia stage we've seen visually, really nice. I really like the look of the rally. It has a proper rally look and feel to it.
To be back actually to the first Colin McRae rally, funnily enough.
It did, for me as well. I really enjoyed, we've talked about New Zealand in the past, and I mentioned Australia as well. And Australia and New Zealand were 2 of my favourite locations in Colin McRae Rally. Brilliant at the time. And so it's nice to see that retains that sort of vibe. So, yeah, what we've seen so far is really looking good.
In terms of rally locations, then we've got Australia, Spain, Sweden, Michigan, Wales, and that's it. That's less than DiRT Rally.
When I saw that, I thought to myself, oh, okay, it's another DiRT Rally, because it's lacking content. We've got 5 countries, and even the Rallycross we spoke about a minute ago, there's only 5 Rallycross tracks. That's just 2 on top of the existing 3 that was in DiRT Rally. So it's not a wealth of content there. So it was a little bit surprising. And like you say, Alan, seeing DiRT 4 was very surprising, because we had recently DiRT Rally, and it's very unusual to have back-to-back sort of releases from a company of Codemasters. Yeah, it's someone big as Codemasters with all the resources they have. They've announced micro machines in between, but still, the 2 major titles back-to-back both have that sort of DiRT brand, and it's very unusual from Codemasters.
It's almost a little bit of brand confusion there, isn't it,
yeah,
between the 2 games? And you'd think that you'd get DiRT Rally VR out the way before moving on to DiRT 4. And I think what Codemasters are saying is we want these 2 brands to live cooperatively in the same environment. But for me, it does sort of confuse the brand. And then it does raise the issue is, will DiRT Rally 4 have VR, or will that be an extra paid for DLC add-on?
What they've said so far, they want to get it in, but they've got too many other things to fit in first. That could well be another add-on from what Paul Coleman's been saying. to me, it seems to me like Dirt's kind of going in a similar direction to Forza, where you've got separate franchises targeting different audiences.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because Dirt Rally is very much the no compromising simulation game. Whereas Dirt 4 is just a continuation of Dirt 3. It's a bit bombastic, it's a bit in your face, it's got plenty of presentation. Whereas Dirt Rally is very much stripped back, more PC market, dare I say. Bit more bland, just more to business like, whereas Dirt 4 is just completely off the wall bonkers.
I think we're going to see a return to that kind of more American vibe that we had in Dirt 2 and 3.
Yeah, which is not for everyone.
This is Colin McRae, Dirt 2, that kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah. It's a bit dude bro, isn't it? It's
interesting that there is, I forget his name now, there's a rallycross driver involved with the development of the game. Can you remember who it was?
Yeah, there was actually a couple, I believe, of high-profile names. They do actually escape my mind as well now. But it's interesting because they had these two racing drivers that have lent themselves to the game, regarding handling model and stuff. But I don't expect a lot from the Dirt 4 handling model, even the simulation. Yeah, I mean,
Dirt Rally could have done with that rather than Dirt 4, arguably, in terms of fine-tuning the handling with expert drivers.
I can't imagine that the simulation will be similar to Dirt Rally. I don't expect that. It'd be amazing. Don't get me wrong, and there are separate leaderboards, but I just can't imagine they'll go to that extreme. We'd love to see it though.
It's hard to pinpoint because if you go back a bit, obviously we had Dirt Showdown as well, and that went in completely the other direction in terms of handling. That was about as arcade as you could get. So what side of the spectrum is it going to be on? It's really hard to say without actually playing it at the moment. And they haven't shown they haven't shown very much official footage either, let's face it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a really big fan of Dirt 3, and we were playing it right up until the beginning of last year. I was still doing Dirt 3 videos, and I played Dirt 3 loads. I love Dirt 3 and Dirt 2. I really like the, not fully sim, but the approachable handling, the intuitive handling. It was very intuitive. It felt very natural.
Tough game though. I mean, Dirt 2 for me was really tough, to get to grips with.
Very challenging.
On the surface, it is very challenging. On the surface, you think it's going to be an easy arcade race, and it's just not. There's enough depth there to sort of keep you invested, and very tough little game that.
Well, the thing about it is like Dirt 3, some of the high speed sections and stuff, you were really, nibbling the apexes and stuff to get as much speed as you could around those corners, and you were always getting, when you were on the limit on Dirt 3 even, it was a great feeling, and I really look forward to that feeling in Dirt 4 as well. So yeah, definitely looking forward to playing it. And I think sometimes getting that nice handling balance makes for a better respite away from the total concentration required in Dirt Rally, which is, as we all know, very intense. And those stages are long in Dirt Rally as well. You get halfway through it, sometimes you think, wow, I'm only halfway in this stage.
And I'm spent.
So I think that we'll have to see how long the stages are. I think Dirt 4 will be more approachable, but they can coexist. I think if, like you say, it gives Dirt Rally the option now of becoming this super hardcore, uncompromising simulation, and they can build towards their dream.
It'd be interesting to bring back the Dirt Showdown as well for a sequel, because then we're going to have 3 Dirt titles. So you talk about brand confusion. It could get a lot worse from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, Dirt Showdown. I spoke to developers. We had an interview on the channel about that at the time, and I said that I never really felt that Dirt Showdown was the game they wanted to make. I felt it was more of a test game. It was a bit of filler content.
It was notoriously rushed, if I remember. It was made in like 8 months or something like that. It was really rushed out the door.
Totally rushed. They had a concept, and they rushed it out, and they never actually took that concept to where it's supposed to go. But it definitely had some ideas to it. It just never, unfortunately, got there.
I didn't mind Dirt Showdown. I think with some extra development, it could have been a really solid game. It was just a fun throwaway title that probably everyone forgot about a year later.
Yeah,
sadly. I think going back to Dirt 4, though, I think the track generation does sound very promising. That could make up for the lack of location to a degree.
I mean, it's very basic. I have seen it in leaked gameplay, which we have on the website. So do check that out. It's basically it comes down to 2 main sliders. You select your location and whatnot, but then you've got these 2 sliders. I guess much like Gran Turismo, where you have this little track generator, but it's very basic. So I wouldn't hold my breath for anything too comprehensive. So it just seems like you select your parameters, you adjust the 2 sliders, and you hit the generate button, and it gives you your sort of generated track based off of what you've told it.
I guess it's a bit more longevity.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is the track generator seems like a bit of a admission that they realise that it's a bit lacking in content. Yeah. So they've got this sort of generation of tracks in there to be able to say, oh, millions of combinations possible.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of a safety net, isn't it? And they've chucked in there. But it's nice to have it all the same. It provides fresh challenges, but I just don't know how long it will keep people invested.
Yeah, it almost seems like they had to get a new feature in there somewhere for the back of the box, which happens to be the track generator. So
it comes back to what I said earlier about the general content. Well, in terms of stages, at least, it seems a bit lacking. But they do have historic rally in there, which is going to be very interesting to see, because I want to see a load of historic rally cars that goes with that, and that could be a lot of fun.
I'm going to say as well, there is over 50 cars according to the announcement, which does sound good.
It's a lot for a dirt title, isn't it? Because
that's an area that was lacking in dirt rally. Yeah.
I
mean, don't forget this does include the Land Rush buggies and other classes like that.
That's the thing. If the same car in different disciplines counts as separate cars, then the total adds up pretty quickly, doesn't it? Because we've seen it in previous dirt titles. We'd have a car and you have various specs, like you have a raid spec and all these other specs. So if they go along that route, then perhaps 50 cars is more like 30 cars.
Possibly, and I think as well in terms of true rally cars, it's not going to be. I don't think it's still going to be able to compete with Sebastian Loeb Rally.
No, but I mean Sebastian Loeb was fantastic for selection, wasn't it? And it had all these various cars throughout the eras, and I love all that. It was fantastic to play. The problem with Sebastian Loeb, of course, it was lacking in sound, and that really detracted from the experience of trying out all these classic rally cars from the past eras.
Yeah, whereas as we know, Dirt Rally absolutely excels when it comes to audio.
Yeah, I mean, if they can get
audio designer of the year, in fact.
Yeah, if it's half as good in Dirt 4, then it would be fantastic, won't it?
Yeah, exactly. Going back actually to the course generator, do you guys remember live routes in Grid 2?
Not a feature I use.
That says it all. They had this kind of random, almost like a track generation feature in Grid 2 where it would just randomize the corners and things like that as you're racing on the fly.
Oh, something rings a bell now.
Oh, yes, I remember. Oh, yeah, I saw a demo of that. That was a big selling point on the game, actually.
Exactly, it reminds me of that in a way. I know it's a bit of a leap forward compared to that, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you say, a lot of track generators, you have to just wait and see how challenging and different and stuff like that, what people can actually do in terms of the stages. Will it feel different, or will it just feel samey?
That was a big problem, wasn't it, with Gran Turismo? The environments just felt samey, very generic, no detail, no life, no uniqueness to each stage. It wasn't your stage, it was just another stage with hills in it, another stage with this in it. It was there's nothing to it that
very dull
personality. Yeah,
exactly. Very dull, and I just kind of feel like you're going to have that straight section plus that bend plus that bend plus that straight plus that bend. It would get deja vu essentially. I think whereas if you could, like, if you had like a 3D mountain range and you could raise the mountains and then draw your road through that mountains and stuff like that, you could bring different forms of undulation in, you could make it unique and stuff like that. I'd like to have a puddle here and a bridge there and so on. I think it'd be amazing.
It's not quite at the level of Trackmania, is it?
No, exactly.
What we're saying is it's not going to have the layer of depth that you might hope for in that case. It's fair to say.
Yeah, well, it looks from like the footage that Kevin was talking about earlier. It looks like they have given themselves a good sized area of sort of mountain range or some sort of plains or places that are obviously to do with the environments that are in the game. And then you fiddle with the sliders and it sort of randomly, it looks random from what I saw. It looks random, but maybe with a bit of logic to it. And it sort of places it across the range that it's got there. And then the undulations come from the environment that it's getting put in. So you sort of, I think that could get some good variety in there. I think if there are as many different combinations of things that they're talking about, then hopefully it should bring variety. And then there's other features like being able to save it and share the.
Yeah, but like you said, because if the environments are giving you the undulation, the hills and the dips, it's not your creation, is it? You're at the mercy of the editor, and we need to move forward really with that, because we've seen decent editors. You mentioned Trackmania Turbo as one example. So we have the technology, but I don't know. It just seems like a feature that's thrown into games nowadays that don't invest a lot of time and effort into, and it just comes across a bit.
It goes back to what we were saying about features of Dirt 4 just feeling a bit half-baked. That is the general vibe we're getting, I think, here.
What worries me is the fact that they're really sort of rallying under this feature. They're really sort of promoting it, and I just worry a little bit that maybe it just is a little bit lacking in content if they're really getting behind this sort of very generic seeming track generator.
It's all marketing, I suppose. They need to have some sort of standout new feature, which happens.
I think that's. I remember going way back to Gran Turismo 3 being released and saying, right, so you've got whatever these Le Mans cars, but how many tracks in the game work for Le Mans cars? There are only 3 circuits in the game. So you see, well, it's not a Le Mans game, and it's not a rally game because there's not enough rally tracks, and it's not a touring car game because there's not enough circuits for that. And so on. And so in the end, you just end up with this mismatch of everything. And I just hope that any one discipline, you can say, right, I'd really like to just stick with this discipline, and there's enough content for that discipline, and it doesn't get a little bit boring. Having said that, Dirt kept you going, but it was quite limited. I mean, it would have been nice to have had a bit more to it, But having said that, I played it loads anyway. I think if the stages are well designed, and you can race them again and again and again, enjoy it, then I think there's always something cool there to discover. And I love some of those events. So the only thing I didn't play very much, I mean, I enjoyed it at first, was the Gymkhana. I thought it was well implemented. I thought I was going to hate it, but enjoyed it enough. But I found it quickly got quite frustrating, because it was really tough.
It was,
so that was a point. That was a big selling point of Dirt 2 and 3, which is obviously. Obviously EA now has the license to that, so will Dirt 4 suffer for that?
Well, there was a tweet somewhere from Codemasters being quite critical of Ken Block somewhere. I saw, and I don't know where I saw it. But I did see it somewhere of them being a bit critical of Ken Block, and I thought, oh, that's not necessary. He was the front man for 2 of your most successful games in history.
I mean, he probably helped some of those.
Obviously, he's at Need for Speed now, but I don't think there's any reason to rubbish the guy. He was very supportive of Dirt 2 and 3, and in fact,
I feel a lot of people associate Dirt 3 with Ken Block because that was an overriding. It was the main theme of the game, more or less.
He was involved with 2 and 3. He was involved with, and I think 2000 and what game was it? 2 or 3? When I interviewed him, it was Dirt 3. Must have been when I interviewed Ken. When I interviewed Ken a few years ago. And now, it was quite a few years ago, actually. I did that interview. That must have been 2010, something like 2009. No, 2009 when I interviewed Ken. So
that's Dirt 2 then, I think.
Yeah, it must have been relating to Dirt 2. So it was a few years ago now, but that was a fun day out. You can't get near the guy now. I mean, he's like way too famous now.
That's true. I don't know about you guys, but part of me wishes we were getting a grid 3 rather than Dirt 4, because we've had so many Dirt games in the past few years and not that many grid games.
Well, the problem is with grid, it's the last grid came out in 2014, Autosport. So it's been longer since the last Dirt title. I think is basically the answer in a nutshell.
With Dirt Rally last year, though.
I think what we've heard about is Codemasters have had financial difficulties. They've got these new Indian investors that have come in and given them lots of cash now, and they've been able to do a lot more. And I guess now they're looking back to these brands that they've wanted to build on. I think it's a shame that Grid. Grid Autosport at the time. I've no idea why they didn't just convert that straight to PS4 and Xbox One as was.
I know, it's mad.
It was a very strange. I remember having the conversation with Codemasters about that the year before the systems came out. Why don't you just release a special edition on? Oh, that's a good idea, isn't it? Someone said. It's like, well, I mean, come on, it's an option. So I think for Codemasters, even a classic pack, of releasing their old games, perhaps running better HD versions or something running on the new hardware, I think would be great, because Grid 2 ran beautifully on the PC, but on the console it was struggling at 30 frames and lower. I mean, it ran terrible on the PS3. So
yeah,
it was it was chugging on the PS3 at the time. So yeah, I don't know, but anyway, this could mean obviously if we have Dirt 4, and then perhaps next year we have perhaps a grid game next year would be likely, and then a Dirt Rally,
exactly,
and carry on in that order. Then you have 3 years between each. 2 to 3 years between each game release, depending on how they want to handle it, and that would be appropriate for them. So I would like to see a new Grid Autosport release, but let's see what the Evolution guys, Paul Roschinsky and co, have got up their sleeve. I mean, that could be something massive. In fact, it's probably the most exciting unknown thing that's on its way. I don't have a clue what it is, really. And we can speculate in all kind of wild areas, but whatever it is, it will be. Yeah, whatever it is, it's going to be something interesting, and we're all going to like it.
Yeah. So one location as well that Dirt 4 definitely wouldn't have is Pikes Peak, which is a real shame. Apparently, Gran Turismo now has the exclusive rights to it. I thought we were done with all of this, after Porsche, after the deal with Porsche running out of EA. That's such disappointing news.
I know, it's terrible news. I mean, I've been recently enjoying Pikes Peak on Sebastian Loeb Rally Evo. Fantastic track. I liken it to the Nürburgring. It's one of those tracks that you have to drive over and over and over just to learn. There's so much to it that you could do 100 laps and still not master that track. It's just a phenomenal track. A phenomenal, piece of road, and I just want to play it in every game that I possibly can. And if Gran Turismo's got it, well, I think we're all doomed, because we're going to see a Gran Turismo title every 5 years if we're lucky. So that's not a lot of Pikes Peak, is it? Between now and the time you buy.
No, and it belongs in a rally game. It's the same with Porsche going in Need for Speed all the time. That was not the best game to represent the brand. The simulation.
It's a great coup, but. We're frightened that they won't utilize it to its fullest. I think that's the fear, isn't it? And we've seen modes before like NASCAR and rally introduced into GT, and it's not even half baked. It's just it's very poorly implemented, and I can't help but feel that it's going to be the same with Pikes Peak. That'd be a real shame.
Yeah, we've only just started to see it come back as well. I think the last game we saw it in before Sebastian Loeb and Dirt Rally was the original Dirt. I think many years ago, but yeah, very, very disappointing news.
I was just going to say the point. Actually, very, very disappointed about that. I think it's a backward step for Polyphony, really, and it means that obviously you're only going to see that track maybe twice in the next 10 years in a game.
That's depressing.
Very disappointing. So just put that in perspective. We'll all be 10 years older. Jeez.
Don't say that. Anyway,
imagine that. I will be, best part 50 by the time we see it in just two more games. That track. Now, how crazy is that? You're going to be best part 40, Martin. That's what we're talking about. My goodness me!
I think we should all go and drive it in real life by that time, anyway.
Yeah, that's true. And hopefully they'll rip up the paving. Hopefully by then as well.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving on. Also announced on, I should point out, the very same day as Dirt 4 was MXGP 3, which I think most of us probably did see coming. Let's face it.
I was surprised, I have to say. Yeah, because there was 2 years between 1 and 2.
I don't know. I kind of, because MXGP 2 was the first one for the
current gen
console, it seemed logical to me that they'd turn it into a yearly iteration like MotoGP.
I didn't think there'd be enough innovation in interest, I guess, to make it a yearly sequel. But here we go. We've got MXGP 3 now. 1 year to make a fundamentally different game from the first. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
You
And true
know,
to form, another mastering game announced on the same day as a major release. Why does this always happen?
yeah, and it's strange because both
Bizarre.
announcements come from the same UK supplier. So I mean,
There
it's
really
not like
is no excuse then.
it's not like there's no communication between these games companies as to what's going on in the world. So it's very strange. I think, like Kevin said, I think I was expecting something different. We've seen MXGP. I think what that says to us then is MXGP2 was probably disappointing because they had the B team working on that, just grinding it out, while the A team were working on a new game for the last couple of years. And that's so, for example, if you see MXGP4, it'll be an extension of MXGP3, while somebody else works on MXGP5. So, I mean, it is a surprise, but let's wait and see. The screenshots didn't look that impressive to me in what we've seen. I mean, they don't look crazy different, but it's how it runs in motion. And it probably will run at 30 frames.
Yeah.
You know. Frame rate, yeah.
Yes, of course it will. It's a milestone game.
Yeah.
I guess the lead feature will be the dynamic weather. You know, that's going to be interesting. Driving these bikes in the mud, in the rain, you know, that's going to be, you know, without
they need to, I mean, Martin highlighted in his review the fact that the deformable ground was not as good in the second game. It didn't play as good. It was a bit rough around the edges.
It looked better on last gen consoles than it did on PS4.
It was another one of those games that was a foundation, I guess, to build upon. You know, we've seen it time and time again, racing games. Yeah, the first time, you know, a sequel comes to the current gen consoles, it doesn't live up to expectation, and we see it time and time again. F1 2015 was one example, and MXGP2 is another.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So no, I mean, I enjoyed the first MXGP title. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Obviously, frame rate on the PC, 60 frames. Really enjoyed it on there. It's a shame that the console versions couldn't run like that at the time. I was expecting if the PS3 version ran at 30 frames, then the PS4 version will run at 60, but it didn't, and that was surprising.
I think at one point they were trying to make that happen, if I remember, in the previews, and then the final game didn't quite achieve that.
Barely held 30, yeah. So
I mean, you know, you include dynamic weather into the equation, and there's no way it's going to run 60 frames.
No, that's true, actually,
on the consoles. So, you know, what is so different apart from the weather? Okay, that's fundamental. I give them that. But what else have they got up their sleeve to differentiate 3 from 2?
Well, no idea. No, we'll have to wait and see. Just fundamental gameplay experience.
Yeah.
But there might be, you know, remote control buggies on track mode or something.
That is true.
Yeah, I've no idea. No idea at this stage.
Just speaking of which, they've I don't know if you guys saw, but they've actually re-released Valentino Rossi the game. They've done their compact editions.
Okay. This is still a thing then.
Which makes one of the worst ever game names even worse. So now it's called Valentino Rossi the Game Compact.
Yeah,
that's just brilliant. And also, it's essentially right. It's a Valentino Rossi game without any of the Valentino Rossi content because it's just the MotoGP stuff.
They should just call it the game.
Yeah.
Just call it
MotoGP
16.
MotoGP 16 season. Yeah, the game.
It's a bizarre thing. I think there's like a handful of Valentino Rossi events, but you don't get the full-on career or anything like that.
So it's exclusively the MotoGP content, isn't it?
It's a very vanilla MotoGP experience. Yeah, there's no Monza Rally. I
mean, in fairness, a lot of people are just after that, and you know, people that are fans of the MotoGP series over the years. It will just be interested in that, so that would be a good buy for those guys that actually held off on Valentino.
Oh, absolutely! I just think it's funny that they've kept the name.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There we go. Anyway, I don't think we can really put this off much longer. We need to talk about Project Cars 2 because, oh my god, it looks like the second coming of racing games. So if you haven't seen it yet, some footage has finally leaked for Project Cars 2. And it looks absolutely incredible. It shows off all the new dynamic weather effects, new seasons. Got the return of Ferrari and Porsche. No words can really do justice how good this is looking already. We should point out though it's not a leaked trailer. Apparently, it's footage that was placeholder footage that was meant to be used for an introduction. Yeah,
we've got this on the site as well, so check that out as well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the rain on the track, I mean, that was incredible. That's what blew my mind. When I saw the rain getting sort of swept to one side as it evaporated or as the wind blew it. I
Bubbles
was
generating.
literally saying, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god!" You know, that was my reaction. Just
Turn 10 have just killed themselves.
incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I would expect. I think Turn 10 are going to have a very similar system because they had the puddles and the rain, and now it's forming the puddles. I think they could have something similar. But Project Cars, I mean, there's some very impressive scenes of a car drifting in the snow, and I really like seeing the way the car was moving. And also some of the rallycross cars look very impressive in there, and there was a solidity and a detail to the environment. I mean, you see one of the curbs there changing in different times of year, and it's really nice detail, visual look to it. And this is early build, so you know it all bodes very well for for the future. You know, obviously very impressed with what we've seen so far. I'm really looking forward to it.
Even just the wind effects in Brands Hatch they showed look authentic, and it makes you wonder how will that affect the race? Will that affect your slipstreaming, for example?
Yeah, I mean, wow, that's a lot of processing, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, if they could, and they could bring in, wind.
Would it be more than just superficial, is what I'm trying to say.
I think at the moment it can't be. I'd say that's if you imagine the amount of data required to have wind effect on the car. You'd be turning into a corner and you'd have that instability where the car moves around a bit. That's the kind of seat to your pants feeling that you need in a real car. That's very difficult to convey in the precision of a video gaming environment where you're trying to perceive wind with your eyes. You know, it's very difficult. But either way,
imagination ran wild.
Having stood on
here's
that
the thing,
tower,
Martin.
I will just say, I stood on that tower, I think, filming you racing around, Martin, when you were there a couple of years ago in a Formula car. I actually
you didn't get me spinning out and myself.
No, I didn't get that, unfortunately, and it was bloody windy up there, I will say. So that's pretty authentic wind. It's like a gale up there. I thought I was going to blow off.
You're going to say, Kevin?
Yeah, the unofficial trailer, it focuses on the flags a number of times, showing the wind blowing it around. So to me, that's a not so subtle hint that the wind will actually play some parts, however minor. It might just be a case of sweeping the rain off the track. Maybe it's that, but I mean, even that's impressive enough.
Yeah.
The thing to bear in mind, I suppose, is will it look as good as that on console? Probably not.
No.
Before we get too carried away.
We'll have to wait and see. And see what happens as well with the more powerful consoles that they're bringing out.
Yeah, I mean, it can look very good on the Scorpio. We'll see what Pro mode can be like. With the consoles, I mean, obviously they're going to reduce the effect for PlayStation and PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. In a way, there's a part of me that says, why don't they just restrict the car count in a race? Because, I mean, I generally race with about 15, 16 cars on Project Cars. That's just a nice number for me in the race. I don't want to run with stacks of cars all going around the circuit because they just get in the way.
Yeah, it's nice to have the option anyway, but yeah.
Nice to have the option, but I think a restriction on that option would restrict some of the problems people were encountering on the first game, for example. Let's drive... How many cars is it? 30, 40, whatever it was, in the rain at night, just to try and chug the frame rate, And I think to myself, well, I don't encounter those problems because I don't normally race with a full car field at Monaco in the rain at night with Le Mans cars. I mean, if you have done it, and I have, by the way, just for a laugh, it was a pointless waste. You couldn't overtake anyone. AI kept crashing from time to time. That would cause mass pile-ups, and it was just a mess. So that's one thing I'd say it's not as necessary.
Yeah. Very promising looking cars there as well. Like I said earlier, we got the return of Ferrari and Porsche, which of course, Porsche. I have to say it properly. Obviously, they were missing last time. Although Ian Bell has since hinted that we will be seeing the Holy Trinity with obviously Ferrari, Porsche, and Lamborghini. So that's good to see. As with the last game, a nice variety of vintage and contemporary machines. And I was surprised actually to see pickup trucks make an appearance. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh, really? No.
I think it was on one of the cockpit shots.
In terms of disciplines, it's looking like they're...
I
mean, that's something that they really hit the nail on the head with on Project Cars 1 was having that sort of career path idea, which was very, very,
like
very
the Toka race driver of its day.
Yeah, they showed what to do with the licenses to the likes of Gran Turismo. You know, I spoke earlier on about the NASCAR and the rally parts that they had, and you know, they didn't implement it well. And you know, Project Cars come along, they get the tracks in, they get the cars in, and they give you, you know, not full seasons, but they give you enough of a taste for it to feel real enough. And you know, it's a fantastic campaign mode as a result, and you know, it's up there with the likes of the best.
They did what me and many other people in the Forza community used to scream at Turn 10 to do, and that was to just make something up. You don't have to have the real life thing. It still could be fun. If you can't get Formula 1 cars, if you can't get Formula 1 cars, make up your own Formula 1 car and have that run in the game. And everyone would drive it. It'd be like a Formula 1 car, and they'll have lots of fun.
That's it. I mean, I was perfectly happy with those cars. I mean, they're just generic. That's all you need. You can paint them how you want. That's one thing. They didn't have the option to paint the cars on the console version, and it would be nice to have had that on the console version as well, because then you can paint your whole field of cars authentically. And I like the way they had, you know, the V8 engine powered cars. I hope they still have one of those, because you know, a lot of us like to hear the classic Formula 1 car and sound over the new V6s. So yeah.
So if you haven't already seen it, stop what you're doing right now, go onto the website and watch the leaked Project Cars 2 footage. Is all I'll say about that. So elsewhere, we've had the announcement of the new Need for Speed. Well, I say announcement, they've just confirmed that there will be one this year. And they're declaring it as the most exciting and best looking ever Need for Speed. Right. Ever heard that one before?
Exactly, yeah. Well, let's hope this one actually has manual gears and a steering wheel.
And a cockpit view.
A cockpit view.
Not 7 or 8 gears as well.
No.
And an interesting environment.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to have to go some to make it look better than Need for Speed 2015. That was a gorgeous game.
Yeah,
it had a lot of faults,
that's the main thing that game had going for it, really, was the visual.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Wonderful visuals, yeah. I mean, and wonderful detailed models. I mean, even the models when you're upgrading your car with the various parts look fantastic. You know, there's wonderful detail there. It's just the game, unfortunately, was bare bones.
What they're saying is
that they continue the modification that they had in that game, and also the integration with some of the brands and things that are involved in like the car tuning community. Like seeing like people that I know as friends, seeing their stickers on my car in Need for Speed was pretty cool.
Yeah,
that was like okay, this is amazing. So that's probably why it's got a bit of a soft spot for me in my heart, that game. But I'm probably
again, it'd be nice if you could paint your own stickers as liveries and, you know, put them on as well.
I was going to say, I'd argue that Forza Horizon 3 is better than Need for Speed in terms of customization, because you can actually apply body kits to cars you can in Need for Speed, and you can design your own liveries.
Yeah, on Need for Speed, the advantage it had with being able to actually like set the amount of offset that you have on the wheels and things like that was pretty far ahead of what you can do in Need for Speed in Horizon. Even Horizon, you sort of just have a one thing that you can add on to like some of the cars, and it just adds the entire body kit and sets the wheel offset.
But I mean, even Need for Speed had that problem. You couldn't do, you know, the full customization to every car. But what it had was good, but I need to expand on that. You know, you mentioned games like Midnight Club before. You know, phenomenal customization.
You know what? It's about car culture, right? It's understanding why Ed and friends go to Santa Pod and have a good time. You know, it's not just the driving, it's getting together, it's meeting people of a similar taste in cars and stuff like that. It's going for cruises and stuff like that. You know, it's a whole culture that they want to try and get into Need for Speed. And that's what they've not got yet. They need to capture that culture and figure out, okay, I'm in the, you know, whatever, Toyota Supra Owners Club. I want to meet other Supra owners. Let's hook up at this part of the city. Let's create a race going from here to there, or some kind of cruise or some kind of drift event, and do stuff like that. So you'd be driving through the city and suddenly these 20 Supras would fly past you doing their thing, you know, and stuff like that. And you'd know that that they would meet up at the same time every day and stuff like that. You create a life for the city. Likewise, you've got your cops going around hunting for wrongdoing and stuff like that, and they can get involved. But you want to have it so that you're free to have your fun with drifting without cops interrupting you if you want to, or now and again, if there's cops getting involved, you want them to actually activate and chase you and have a super intense car chase if you want to as well. I don't think the nighttime only thing works. Yes, it worked 13 years ago when Underground was released. Doesn't now. It's not enough. I think you need different times of day and different options and stuff. Perhaps you can do stuff more freely at night than you can during the day in the option. So if you do stuff during the day, you've got more chance of cops coming, but there's a greater risk reward factor somewhere or something. I don't know. I think there's a lot you can do with it, but it's understanding the car culture. We talked about at the time about having the ability to play loud music out of your car and drive around and just annoy other people or something, or having ridiculously loud engines that overpower everyone else's engine or something, so you have less power in your car but more noise from your engine or something. Just little things that bring in different elements of car culture. So it's a combination of different things, but fundamentally when you're in that car and you're driving, you've got to have something to do. Somewhere to go, somewhere to race, somewhere to drift, cops to get away from, something that develops you as a driver in terms of XP or your knowledge of the car even and stuff like that. So yeah, that's me rambling. There you go.
Okay, I think Forza Horizon 3 did improve on those aspects as well in terms of the kind of community aspect. And just having an interesting environment with stuff to do. Like, there's so many times where I've set my GPS to go to a race event, and I get distracted because there's so many side events to do and stuff like that. Something Need for Speed does need to kind of catch up with, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
There we go. Anyway, one game we've also been wondering about quite a bit lately is actually Flatout 4. Because it was first announced in 2015 and we've heard next to nothing about it ever since. But I stumbled across a French website which claims that it's coming in March this year. So that's not a very long time away. There's some screenshots as well. It's in development by Kiloton Games, who make WRC 6 and WRC 5. It's going to be good to see the series make a comeback, I think. But what concerns me is that there's been no trailer yet. And that's not usually a good sign for a game that's imminent.
No, it's quite surprising, isn't it, at this stage to have something? So maybe it'll be delayed. Who knows? It's strange. But then look at, like I say, I think the most crazy one was Redout last year. Hi, when's the game due for release? Oh, 2 weeks. 2 weeks time. Haven't you seen a trailer for it yet? I couldn't believe it. At the time,
we still had some early trailer of some. We did have some early announcement trailers and videos like that, but there's been nothing for Flatout 4 at all.
No, exactly.
A handful of official screenshots and that's it.
Do we know who's even publishing it? I don't even know who's publishing.
Big Ben and I think it's Strategy First, I think they're called.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, we'll wait and see. That's interesting.
There'll be 10 game mode as well, which is quite interesting. It's more than I thought there would be, including also the comeback of the stunts mini games where you could throw your driver out the windscreen. Do you remember those?
Oh yes, and was that the one where he's stuck against the? He had a big sort of board or something, and you could go as high as you could possibly go.
There's like high jump events and
very strange stuff. But yeah, it could be fun.
A bit of a novelty, but
interesting range of vehicles.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like muscle cars.
I have to admit, the graphics are, they're not great in some shops. They're a bit basic in some shops, and let's see how it runs, how smoothly it runs. Let's see the frame rate.
Frame rate.
The picture, for example, of the truck and the car in the snow doesn't look that great.
I guess we don't know how early these
we don't know
build is in these screenshots.
No. We don't. You've mentioned 2 games there, Carmageddon Max Damage and Gas Guzzlers Extreme. That's not a very high bar graphically. No. So I hope it is better than those 2, if it's going to get anywhere. It's all about the physics over this game, really. All
If it
about
has
the
good
physics.
crashes and good damage, I'm completely
As
sold.
long as your
That's-
guy flies out the
Right.
windscreen and his body flails in the air and lands against 20 different objects, then fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting, of course, it's being made by a different developer. Obviously, Bugbear made Flatout 1 and 2, and they're now making Wreckfest. So it's going to have quite a lot of stiff competition, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you say, nothing for years, and then suddenly you've got, several car crashing games coming out, haven't you? So
Yeah.
we'll keep our ear to the ground. I will investigate this further. This is my new research project.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that personally. I mean, I'm a bit of a fan of Flatout. I do think it's a bit underrated. I think I fell under a lot of people's radar because of Burnout.
Yeah, really fun title. If we exclude number 3, of course, which was absolutely horrendous. That could have killed the series right there and then. But hopefully, for will return. Well, yeah, pretty much.
I think Bugbear just deny its existence like I am.
Yeah, exactly.
I know the best thing about that game is if you watch the trailer, it looks so shoddy. And then they had the audacity at the end to have really big text going up on the screen saying the best racing game ever made. I'm not exaggerating. Look it up.
In which universe, is that going to be the best game ever made? I don't know.
Oh, so yeah, as long as it's better than that, it shouldn't have too much trouble. But could be here as soon as March. So look out for that one.
Yeah.
Right, time for our Q&A this week then. Over onto Facebook. Ian McNally says, you've got a couple of questions here actually. Do you guys think that Dirt Rally should have received DLC? Seems a bit more unlikely now due to Dirt 4, but you never know. Or do you think there was just enough content for what it was? No, we pretty much said a lot.
We covered this last week. Yeah, it needs more content basically, and even Dirt 4 looks like to me it might need more content as well. So it looks like an unfortunate trend.
Yeah, that's the answer to that then. Yes.
Yes. More content needed.
Yeah, we said before, but it was such a solid game in every aspect apart from that.
A better question would be, do we actually expect more content to come out now?
No, well, we did expect it, didn't we? And I think we're disappointed that there wasn't. I think the idea was, if you'd said to me there'd be 2 more stages and 3 more World Rally cross tracks, I'd have said fine. But they didn't come, and I expected this, and I even expected this DLC with a VR to include perhaps a new stage and a new rallycross track in there at least. But it doesn't. So disappointed with that. I kind of feel they've made their money and dropped it, and they've moved on. But I think it's a bit of a shame, bearing in mind how it's developing up to that point.
This is the problem. Dirt Rally just feels unfinished.
It felt like one of the sort of games, a bit like Assetto Corsa, where the developers sort of move on with it and it sort of grows a little bit. But no.
Yeah, it has a cult following, doesn't it? But it'd be interesting to see if they return to it in the future. If there's enough market for it, which I hope there is. We see more and more serious racing games coming for the consoles. So hopefully, in the future, Dirt Rally 2, a lot more content and hopefully sell a lot more copies to secure its sort of future.
I mean, who knows? We might end up seeing Dirt Rally 2 next year.
Yeah,
possibly. It wouldn't surprise me in a way, because I think Paul Coleman is so passionate about that particular project, he will make it happen. Rallying is his thing. He does co-driving in real life. I've chatted to him in the past, and I got the feeling he was a bit frustrated that Dirt 3 and Showdown were a bit held back in terms of the rally content. It wouldn't surprise me if we see something later down the line, whether it's a sequel or an expansion, but we shall see. Anyway, the same guy's also asking, are there any sort of racing games that you'd like to see that haven't been made for a while make a return, such as Burnout, Driver for Martin, and Split Second? I was expecting that.
Martin's eager for like a remake of Driver 3. So
Driver
that's the question, basically. Yeah, Driver.
The original Driver, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Driver San Francisco, I think, was a phenomenal game, and I'd love to see.
It's the best game ever made.
The multiplayer mode was outstanding on that game. It should be an e-sport, frankly. You wouldn't have a clue what was going on because it does get pretty fast paced, but it is a stunning game. But no, I think besides that, I mean, it's I'd say a lot of stuff is actually being revisited these days, isn't it? It's a bit like Toka touring cars. Toka touring cars would not be popular enough today because people would say, well, there's not enough cars in it. There's only a certain amount of cars, there's a certain amount of tracks. It's not as big as Formula One as a brand. If you take it, it's a niche in the UK. That's it. Wouldn't sell anywhere else.
Burnout does have quite a big following, though. I think a new game would sell quite well.
It does. I think the problem with Burnout is that Burnout changed as a game, and it has several very distinct audiences. I mean, we go back to Burnout 1, where you had to dodge all the traffic, and then you go to Burnout Revenge, and the next one where you're sort of smashing into all the traffic.
I hated that. That didn't last, though. That didn't last.
It didn't last, and I think that there's definitely different audiences for Burnout. I think for me, I like Burnout 3. That's my favourite Burnout, probably.
I think,
because it was combined everything that was great, and I would actually like a new version. But the problem is, it's a simplistic game by today's standards. Pretty simplistic racing action, and would that be enough to sell on its own right? I don't know right now. It would be carried by the brand, but people want like a game with like 200 cars in and loads of different tracks and car styles and race styles.
Maybe a download game. They did try that actually with was it Burnout Crash?
I mean, I did actually like the inclusion of things like crash mode and stuff at the time. I had a lot of fun on that, creating massive pile-ups,
I don't know. I think that games that were more simplistic are successful because of that. Like if you think about recently games that massively explode, you think about like Minecraft, for example. At its core, to start with, was extremely simplistic and people just grew on it.
I'll say that's why I've been doing the retro content, because games were simplistic. And I talk a lot in these retro videos about how like when I was playing Watch Dogs 2, I had to have someone from Ubisoft next to me telling me what to do, because there was nothing intuitive. There was nothing obvious. There's so many menus you have to go through. You've got a 40-odd minute tutorial just learning the game. So, but in the past, it was press start and play, and you knew what you were doing. It was all plainly obvious. So I think the problem is that I mean, I love that sort of thing, but from a basic perspective. But a lot of people expect super complexity now, and it makes you wonder whether they will like just pure simplicity of just the driving action, whether that will keep people going. They'll want multiplayer features, which would work really well on Burnout. But who knows? I think Burnout could be done. I just wonder if they could do it right without adding in too many. Like Milestone do with MotoGP, they add in a lot of modes that you don't really need just to pack out the package. And
Burnout, if it doesn't sell, even if it doesn't sell well anymore, I think we still need more games like that that are just simple to play, play experience. We don't have.
I'd love that much time, so it's I'd love to see a new Split Second. Give me Split Second. Let me blow up buildings and stuff like that. I love the destruction in Split Second, and it's just such a shame, a crying shame that that
was one of my favorite games of probably that generation. Actually, very underrated. It was basically just Michael Bay, the game. Even the color palette was like deliberately cinematic to look like a Michael Bay film with the oranges and blues. It's great.
I don't know why, but for some reason I'm thinking of really random games that I used to play on PlayStation 2, like a new Smuggler's Run would be amazing. I used to love that game. But I used to have the best fun on that game, just going on free play mode, activating the cheat where you could make the cars lose gravity if you touch them, and just like hitting all the camper vans and letting them float off into space.
Cheats, remember them?
Yeah.
Rockstar anymore.
Rockstar games and cheats. They were the best. But
legendary for their cheats.
I don't know if you guys remember the Stuntman game.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
A remake of that would be cool.
It kind of was on PlayStation 3. Probably the most difficult game I've ever played, actually, the original one.
Yeah, it was trial and error at its best. Yeah, it was not for everyone, I would say, but yeah, if you had the patience, you'd be rewarded with a lovely sort of chase scene at the end. But it certainly wasn't for everyone. Personally, I would have said Test Drive Unlimited free, but we're getting that. So I would say I would most like to see a game that's a similar vein to Toca Race Driver, with a story element that sees you traveling across the globe, driving all manner of different racing cars at all different parts of the world, all different tracks and stuff. And I really love that. And I guess maybe something else like Test Drive Ferrari Racing Legends, where you get to drive all different Ferraris throughout the sort of history. Maybe you could do a Lamborghini one or another different manufacturer, and I love all that, going from the roots and driving all different cars from various different eras. Love all that.
There were quite a lot of games like that back in the day. Again, like Alan said earlier, it's a sort of game that wouldn't sell well anymore, but you had some really obscure ones. I think there was a Corvette game, I think, for example.
Yeah.
There was I'm trying to think. There was a really obscure car manufacturer. I can't remember what it was now, that had a game all to itself.
Oh, okay.
You had Lotus Challenge as well.
Lotus ones, weren't there? Yeah.
I remember that. It was Noble had their own game.
Yeah. Lotus had one. Ford had one as well. Ford Racing.
That's right. Yeah.
Lotus Challenge was it, or Lotus? I can't remember. Yeah.
Mm.
They don't exist anymore, do they? It's a real shame.
No, it's not. It just doesn't work now. I mean, people expect multiple brands, and they get bored very quickly with just one car. But
Porsche Challenge as well. That's an obvious one.
Porsche Challenge, we covered that.
Car in that one.
That's it. One car in the game. Exactly.
It was a marketing tool for Porsche Boxster. That was
one car with 3 locations. It was, yeah. I mean, look at Ridge Racer, one track with an add-on. That's it.
Things have moved on.
They have moved on, but there was a simplistic, wonderful, fun feeling to it all. And as I say, I think recent times, I think since Split Second and Blur didn't sell as well as they wanted it to, that we've kind of lost that arcade. I think both those games remade with modern technology could be awesome. I would love to have seen, like you say, an HD Split Second, but sadly it's never going to happen. There was a sequel in development, BlackRock, and they shut the studio down. I was like, gutted.
Was that not? There was a sequel for Blur, but I don't remember there being a sequel for Split Second in the world.
It was in production, and at the end of Split Second, you've got these bulldozers that come into town, and it announces the sequel to Split Second 2 is coming soon or something. It says when you get to the end, and it was in production. I spoke to somebody at Disney and knew all about it, and then unfortunately it just didn't sell. It came out the wrong time. It wasn't marketed in the right way, and just didn't sell. And it was a crying shame for the industry that it didn't do very well, because it was massive fun.
Exactly. Better push on with these questions actually. So next up, Boris. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. Sorry.
Boris says.
Some chap called Boris on Facebook says, "Do you play handheld racing games? And if yes, which is your favourite?" Handheld.
I used to play a lot of Virtua Racing on the Sega Nomad. That's Virtua Racing Mega Drive car. I used to play hours and hours and hours of F-Zero on the Game Boy Advance when it's released, and I used to play a lot of Super Mario Kart on the Game Boy Advance when it's released as well. So handheld racing game wise, those 3 are probably the 3 that I played in the history of my life. Now, more than anything, now I play. I've been playing some stuff on the JXD. I've been playing obviously Ridge Racer Revolution. I've been playing obviously some F-Zero on there as well, which is still awesome. There'll be a video coming on F-Zero soon as well, so that to look forward to. Over to you guys. I mean, there's a lot coming on the Switch. I mean, the Switch could be the handheld driving system you've all been waiting for at this rate.
Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah.
I'm not sure I've been waiting for that, really.
I guess for me, I didn't really get into handheld gaming until the PSP came out, which didn't have that many exclusive driving franchises from what I remember. It was all ports of console games. Well, obviously, it was pretty much a console in your hands, really, the PSP, so I guess that's why. I enjoyed Ridge Racer and games like that on the system. Nothing else really springs to mind at the moment, though, I have to say. I just play a bit of Micro Machines on the Game Boy. I actually had Race Driver Grid on my Game Boy Advance. And
I had that on PSP as well.
Toka game or something like that. And they were interesting. I think the one of them had like a track creator in it, which was interesting. But it was basically just a left hand right angle, and then a straight, and then a right hand right angle, and then maybe some more straight. That was fun.
What about you, Kevin?
I guess the last handheld device that I played an awful lot of was the Nintendo DS, which had quite a lot of racing titles, but nothing really stands out as being fantastic. More recently, I've been enjoying a bit of tabletop racing on Android. So, that's about it, really.
Yeah, I guess you've got the Asphalt series as well on mobile. They're quite more recent ones are quite good.
Yeah, I haven't actually played those because they take up so much room on my phone. It's
I'm always having to uninstall them.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a case of getting everything off and then trying to asphalt out. I'll get there eventually when I get a new phone.
I have to admit, there's a part of me that prefers not to play. I prefer the lightweight arcade experiences as a handheld device, and then the more serious driving games I prefer on my big TV. And that's why I liked some of the more simplistic, and still do some more simplistic. I suppose that's the thing about. But it'll be interesting. Obviously, the Switch is the first time where you're going to get. I mean, if you do get games like Project Cars and Dirt 4 for the Switch, it could be interesting to see, because they will look roughly as good as they do on a PS4 or Xbox One.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird to think that. I mean, you saying about mobiles has made me realise about Car X drift racing on the mobile. I play a lot of that. And also Pixel Car Racer. I don't know if you guys know that one.
Yeah, it's the one with the crates, isn't it? You get different parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know, that reminds me, like one of the most popular games in the world is Automotive on mobile. It's a drag racing game.
CSR, is it?
CSR, yeah. Wow, I visited the guy who, it was quite strange, but the CSR2, I guess, is out now, I assume.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, I got invited to an event, and they had this private cinema. I went in, and the guy who made CSR was sitting there. I sat down, I did this interview with him, and he got really uncomfortable halfway through the interview, didn't know what he was supposed to be saying, or if we should say it. And then this PR lady said, "Look, we're not having interviews now," and all this. It's very bizarre scenario. But in the interview, he talked a bit about the numbers that they'd sold, and just crazy numbers that they sell on mobile phone gaming now. It really is immense how big that is. And we played it for a bit. At first, I'd never played it before. First, I didn't understand it, and then I got the hang of it and started beating him at it as well. And it was basic, but it was something where you just wanted to restart. It was like playing Trials HD. When you're playing Trials HD and you start to mess up and you're like, restart, it becomes like an automatic reaction. And you started doing that just to improve a bit more and a bit more. So I could see where the sort of addictive side to it was. But it does surprise me how big these mobile titles are. Absolutely huge.
Yeah. Moving on to Twitter then. James Allen says, are there any genres or eras of motorsport that you feel aren't represented enough in racing games? If so, what are they and why?
Yeah, we mentioned touring cars, didn't we? That was,
that's what springs to mind. The British
gone
touring
away.
cars. I'd love to see that make a.
I think what would be great is if you had British touring cars as a history. So you had like all the British touring car circuits, but you had all of the cars. So if you said, I want to run the 94 British touring car season, the cars are in there. I want to run as Derek Warwick or Alan Menu or all these old guys years ago, or you want to go as some guys in the 70s or something. That would be awesome if you had the complete history of British touring cars, the winners, learn about the history of British touring cars, everything. That would be nice. And I think if you broke motorsport down into a compendium, if you like, of different games that had these different cars and different tracks, it would be amazing. I think you could, because you teach people about the automotive world as well. Wonderful. It's all in my mind's eye. But yeah, I think that's one of them. And I think generally we've never had a GP2 or a GP3 game. That's a shame, because Bernie's never allowed it. Maybe with Liberty Media coming in to Formula One. That might mean we get GP2, GP3 classes. I think open wheel in general, up until very recently, has been quite a neglected genre. It's only in recent years that we've seen, you know, other Formula cars coming in, but there's a lot of decent formulas. In fact, Toka Race Driver 2 had Formula Ford in it at the time, which was very unusual to see Formula Ford cars in a game.
On the
It
cover.
made a big difference. So yeah, I think it would be nice to see more of the open wheel genres, even an open wheel compendium of some kind as well. You know, really focusing on certain histories of motor series and stuff like that, but also the evolution of the circuits as well would need to be in that. Like Grand Prix Legends, when we look at Grand Prix Legends, you know, that's a similar thing. It focused on a certain area of history, but goodness me, was it challenging.
Very true. Next then, Graham Cook says, I have a Thrustmaster T150 with standard 2-pedal setup. Does adding a clutch without adding a shifter add to the experience?
Well, personally, I would say that if you're used to driving a road car every day, there's a certain comfort of adapting to using your clutch anyway. You know, and you will still do it quite intuitively, but there is a satisfaction to a gear stick when using a clutch that cannot be measured, and it feels so much more natural using a gear stick. It just feels right. It feels part of your common body motion, if you like. As soon as I start using paddles, it loses something, it loses an element, and I just feel like there's no point. I may as well just use the pedals, you know.
Yeah, it's the whole appeal of driving is just lost then, really, that aspect of it.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's satisfaction.
The gear stick adds enormous, and the Thrustmaster gear stick, I will just recommend it because it is absolutely fantastic. 8 shifters really feels nice in the gates, and it's a really nice movement to it. So it's very decent.
Adrian Pullen, he has a few questions for us. He asked, do you know anything about the F1 2016 tyre update?
No, actually, I haven't been keeping up too much up with that. So I mean, I have to admit, Codemasters haven't been that helpful with us when it's come to F1 2016. I think that would be an understatement. So unfortunately, no, we have not been kept appraised of developments on that, and whether they've given up on it entirely.
Also, do you know anything about the new F1 game? No announcement, no hints, no nothing yet.
No. That team is getting all the track data, everything track sorted, so that as soon as the cars are revealed, they'll have a generic model that they'll already have working, and with the new tyres and everything, and then they can adapt that to the pros and cons of the new race cars as they see testing in the Australian Grand Prix. Very tight turnaround for them to get it all modelled. So I'm assuming as soon as you see the Australian Grand Prix cars, that's when they start modelling, because that's when they finally have all the aero on that they're actually going to use. They sort of keep it all concealed during the earlier testing.
And then he's just said Project Cars 2.
Project Cars 2.
Well,
lovely.
We discussed that earlier, in great
What's
length.
it like is watch the damn footage and be amazed. Okay, finally then, Toomba Online says, with Project Cars 2 scheduled to debut this year, will it go up against the likes of Gran Turismo and the unannounced Forza 7 on Scorpio? Yes, absolutely.
Yes, a titanic battle between
competitive times
coming together. I mean, Forza 7 versus Gran Turismo 7. They've caught up at last, and they're ready to meet and crash into each other like two massive mountains. And then Project Cars 2 is going to come in there, and it's going to create Everest, right? And on top of that mountain, one of them will sit. And I think it's going to be very competitive between all of them at the moment. I can't say anyone's going to be right at the moment, but it will be interesting if Gran Turismo can show a decent package, then all-round package, then it will be up there. If Forza 7 can get the hold of their steering handling, then they'll be up there. And if Project Cars can bring its massive vision together without the bugs, then it will be up there. So it's going to be for the competition for the VVV Awards 2017 will be immense.
Yeah, look forward to that. I mean, it's going to be more competition this year in the racing game genre than your average F1 race.
Yes. Yes,
be
it's
that.
going to be massive. Massive.
Right, I think that's about it then for this podcast, unless anyone else has anything else to add.
No.
Right, that's it then for this week. Thanks as always for listening. Do keep sending us in your questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. But until then, we'll see you again next time. Bye for now.